Hey, I'm David Yak here,
And I'm Susan Keller-Horn.
and you're listening or watching Yak About Film. So, this is the podcast from the Vero Beach Film Festival, and I don't think we open that way
No, we don't
ever. We
normally
never
do
tell
that.
anybody what the
Well,
festival actually
we
is.
haven't done it for a few years. We've kind of forgotten.
Right.
So,
What we really wanted to talk about, though, is we do something really interesting in the community. And we've just started really recently. We do something, and it's Susan's invention called Movies and Mimosas,
yes.
where we go around to various communities who we hope will invite us, right? And we show some of our one or two of our films and always coming attractions from this year's festival. And we sort of wanted to tell the communities around the area in Vero Beach, Indian River County, or its outskirts, to sort of tell them we're available if they'd like us to talk to the community. So,
Yes. And everyone has a great time. We show our award-winning comedy short from last year. It's called Fundamental Shapes. We also call it the Naked Movie.
we do.
And then we show you a bunch of trailers for this year, and we have fabulous films. And we are about to interview Billy Deck, and we're super excited about his film, Food Roots, and we're super excited about the fact that Billy's going to be here. So welcome, Billy.
Hi, how are you? Thanks
Good.
so
How
much
are
for having me.
you?
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for being here with us. I was reading your bio and I'm a little tired for you because you're an actor, you're a lawyer, you're a restaurateur, you're a filmmaker, you have an HR firm,
An Emmy
you
Award
do
winning.
Emmy Award winning. Yes, you do advertising. Do you ever sleep?
I, I, I need to. Yeah, I do. I do. I have, I should have said this. I'm going to start saying this at the beginning of my bio. I have an amazing team, an amazing village around us that helps all these wonderful things to happen. Um, as I think many people do if they start doing great things. It takes a village, and it's been quite a blessing. It wasn't always like that. I spent a long time sort of struggling and just grinding and working 3-4 jobs at a time, trying to make something out of nothing. And then so these days it's interesting to hear someone say that. Thank you, and I can't take the credit.
Well, I think you can take the credit because it's important to be the person who can lead that team. So, but today we're here to talk to you about your newest film, Food Roots, which we love. Tell us a little bit about how it came about.
Yeah, I wish I had some great idea, but the whole thing really came about with sort of an unfortunate life experience that happens. And one day, randomly, two of my last three elders in the islands of the Philippines, where my mom is from, passed away on the same day. And for a long time, even though we had gone back and forth to the Philippines my whole life, I felt like I was missing so much because I wasn't present. I wasn't really a part of it like a lot of my cousins and the rest of my family was. And as much as I'm a restaurateur who owns Sunda New Asian, which is a mix of all things Southeast Asian, including food from the Philippines, I didn't know the deep recipes that were never written down by my Lola, my grandmother, who was one of the best cooks ever. And that's really how it started. And I had filmed in the Philippines before. I knew folks that were shooters and editors and sound. And I just asked a couple if they would, I just dropped everything and I just went. And I asked them if they would come along and capture it. And then things began to unfold, which is where I think the magic is. And it really became something that originally, I don't know if I fully intended for us to be here today, which is awesome, which is such a gift. So thank you again. But I didn't know in that moment that this was going to be the outcome.
Well, I love the film, and I think our audience needs to hear a little bit about what the film is about. So, can you give us like a synopsis of the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Chicago, half Filipino, and essentially I drop everything and go back to the islands of the Philippines to find lost family members and learn the recipes of my ancestors to better understand my culture, heritage, background, identity. And I at first went for something around recipes and food, and it became much more of a story and reflection of my roots. And I think that's where the Food Roots title comes from. And I just think, I was in sort of really poor parts of the Philippines, working and cooking with my cousins and aunts and uncles, and really figuring out what my family would eat and come together over and why, and into the mountains or the beaches. And it was just a very incredible discovery and journey. And I hope folks look at it and say, well, a couple things. Like, one, oh my gosh, the Philippines is way more beautiful than anyone ever told me. The 7,641 beautiful islands, that is incredibly special. But also that, and this has happened in film fests and other showings, where as diverse as the audiences are in every single way, in every way you can imagine, there is an emotional reaction to this that includes kind of wondering what it would be like to go back in time to learn the recipes of their ancestors, or anything that would inform them of their lineage and heritage. It could be around fashion, it could be around work or building, or any sorts of crafts, or anything you can imagine. And these conversations are super interesting, because by not knowing that, they're sort of navigating this world in America where you're sort of given a lot of signals of what is acceptable and celebrated, and we find ourselves really chasing that sometimes, and it leaves these sort of gaps and sometimes missing pieces in folks in their lives, and I think this sort of is making people think about what perhaps they're missing and how they could go about their own journey to become this fulfilled.
I totally agree. When I watched the film, my heritage is Italian and German, and I'm probably leaning more towards the Italian side because that's my mom. And I was feeling the same exact kind of thing. Like, I remember my grandmother making the most incredible dishes, no recipes ever, and I would love to go back and see what was out there. So yeah, that definitely resonated with me as well. Thank you. Um,
Is that I'm curious because this is a podcast and you do a podcast. Do you still do the meal of your life? Right.
Yes.
Tell me a little
So,
about. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's interesting. The meal of your life, to me, as a restaurateur who puts together and works with a team that orchestrates thousands of elements to come together and create a totality of inputs that results in an experience that is hopefully above and beyond any other experience you could have out there at any other restaurant. But in order to accomplish that, it takes a lot of work to orchestrate all of these things that many times don't really incorporate what's on the plate. There's so many other elements in sort of an elevated entertainment or hospitality experience that are critical to the success of one's happiness, memories, sharing, and all the things that are also important in gathering, in human interactions, and over food or not. So the originally it was sort of put out there to say, let's go out and talk to these celebrities and actors and singers and athletes and just friends that were really fun to talk to, but find out what was not only, you know, what their lives were like and what they grew up with and what kind of foods influenced them and what they were eating at the lunch table or after school, or but what was their number one greatest memory, that one meal that changed their lives, or that they'll remember forever. And most of the time, the theory was proven correctly that it didn't have to do with what was on the plate. It had to do with who they were with, what was going on, why they came together, what actually occurred, the reactions and the outcomes of that human sort of relationship and interaction. Those things really are so meaningful and memorable that's what ends up being talked about. And it then becomes a really important and interesting reflection of who the person is, not what they say on red carpets or in interviews normally, but it tells listeners something completely different that they would have never expected. And we're actually changing, revolving the title to Food Roots, because we found that Food Roots is somewhat similar. You know, when you start talking about all these things that you think are around food or finding recipes, they're really not. They're really about the discoveries and what those mean to you, you know, in a much more important way, you know, because it's really about who you are and who the relationships are around you and how you've interacted with them. Yeah, over food, but what that sort of outcome and meaning really, you know, means to you.
And what was the meal that changed your life?
That's what I was thinking.
Mine? Well, you know, it's really interesting that I sort of generally, okay, so I've been in the restaurant business my whole life, so it's very hard. Like, food was always a part of what we've done, and I've had so many great meals. But when you ask me that question, and that's what's so cool about this question of Food Roots and what is the most memorable meal of your life, people can answer it in a lot of different ways. And yeah, there were people that said, yeah, I had this one dish. But for me, it was always, whether it was my dad's side, who was also German and Italian, but also Polish and French and a lot of sort of Eastern European backgrounds, all wrapped into one. And then my mom, who was from the islands of the Philippines, they both came from backgrounds that, whether it was my dad's side, because there were so many slivers of different types of backgrounds integrated into his past, would always come to the table with a mix, like a smorgasbord of like a lot of things, a mix of things. And then in the Philippines, because of the different influences throughout Asia, whether it's Japan or China, Malaysia, or the occupation of, Spain or America, and the relationships between, maybe Mexico through Spain and other sorts. There's so many influences in the food that essentially those meal experiences I found later in life, once I started to integrate and be with a lot of other adults, I realized that my upbringing wasn't normal, that I was heavily raised in a family of experimental mixing of food and cultures. I think both of those backgrounds were incredibly unique, whether it was mixed Eastern European or it was being from the Philippines with all of the influences that it's had over time. It was always open-armed and about bringing it together and mixing it together. And I think that's why Sunda has become such an amazing sort of offspring of all that, because we're taking all of these different cultures and flavors and textures and ingredients from around Southeast Asia, cooking styles, presentations, and just sort of mixing and elevating them, which I would have to say is my answer. I mean, that had the most impact. Those meals as a kid where it was celebrating diversity of culture and diversity of flavors and diversity of ingredients, and then playing and integrating and experimenting with all is what led me to what I love today, which is sort of this Sunda New Asian journey that we've been on, and now Food Roots. I mean,
We are so excited that you're going to be here. I don't know if our audience realizes this, but you are coming in for our opening night, which is Thursday night, and your film is showing at 7:30 at the Theater Guild, at the main stage at the Theater Guild. And we are thank you so much for coming, because from what I understand, you're opening another restaurant right after you leave us. Where are all your restaurants?
So Nashville, Chicago. We have 2 in Chicago, 1 in River North, 1 in Fulton Market, 1 in Tampa, which is somewhat close, which is awesome. I love Florida, and I love what's happening in Tampa, and it's just been explosive and exciting, and I literally feel like it's vacation when we're there. And there's so many other places that we're gonna be looking at in Florida, and I'm excited to see your neck of the woods, and I'll be there. I'm so excited to meet everybody. I hope people come out. I know the film fest is going to be outstanding. I know the film is like completely moving and wonderful and exciting. I will be there for the Q&A to answer anyone's questions and to enjoy the night, and so I hope to meet you all there.
Right. And right after your film, we're hoping you come on over to our opening night party, which is at the Subaru dealership, the brand new showroom that they
Brand new,
have. It's a
spectacular.
beautiful place, and it's going to be a really fun party. And we're going to have some really other cool people there. We have Sally Kirkland going to be there, Tyler Steelman,
Yeah.
a lot of our filmmakers, and you. So that would be
I'm
fantastic.
100% coming, but I'm coming alone, so I need friends. So I hope
I'll be
people
your
watching
friend.
this, I hope people
We're
watching
here.
this will hang out with me and come if you're in that part of the world. Get to the film fest, get to this after party. The movie's really emotional, as you guys know, and hopefully remember that it's nice to have a friendly face and a conversation about it afterwards. And I'll be excited to see everybody.
We're so looking forward to seeing. And by the way, Susan and I will be surrounding you the entire time that you're here.
Well, you have to start out at the Subaru dealership. I'll meet you there. I'm hanging out with him. Anyway, we will see you really soon. And thank you so much for sharing the podcast with us and sharing your film with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Billy.
Thanks, Billy.
Looking forward to seeing you, really.
Thank you.
So, the festival. Passes. 3 sets of passes. Pick 4. Cinema pass and the premiere pass. Pick 4. You get to see 4 great films. You can see Billy's film, especially. Yes. That's one definite.
Yes, that's a definite.
Right? You can do the cinema pass, which allows you into any film or any of the lectures or the panels throughout the course of the weekend. And of course, the premiere pass lets you do anything, and actually anything that Billy wants to do.
That's true. That's
right?
True.
So anyway, we hope to see you there, and Susan and I will see you next time.